Okay, so let's think beyond that familiar stomach grumble, beyond the sting of what we usually call failure. What if our whole understanding of these things, these really basic human experiences, has been, well, kind of incomplete?
It's a really interesting idea, isn't it? A perspective that could challenge some pretty deep assumptions we hold.
Exactly. We tend to think, okay, hunger is physical, setbacks mean I failed. End of story.
Right. But Dan Hollis comes along and says, hold on, maybe what you think you're hungry for or what looks like a failure, maybe that's actually something else entirely. Maybe it's a message or even an opportunity if you look at it differently.
Yeah, and that's what we're diving into today. We're exploring the really transformative teachings of Dan Hollis. We've pulled insights from three key areas of his work: emotional hunger, feeling gracefully with weight loss, and just weight loss in general. Our mission really is to kind of distill the most important ideas, the key insights from these sources, give you a shortcut maybe to understanding this really nuanced approach to health and self-discovery.
And these sources, they offer such a unique lens, don't they, for looking at our relationship with food, with our bodies, but also, maybe even more importantly, with our own internal stories, the narratives we tell ourselves.
It's about peeling back those layers, getting beyond just the surface stuff.
Yeah.
And we think you'll find some genuinely surprising facts here, maybe some of those aha moments, and definitely some practical insights that could really shift how you think about weight, sure, but also emotional well-being and just navigating life's bumps with a bit more, I guess, grace and curiosity.
Yeah, curiosity is a big theme here. Let's get into it.
Okay, so physical hunger. We all get that, right? Stomach growls, you feel empty, you start thinking about your next meal.
Yeah.
Seems pretty straightforward.
It does. But then Hollis introduces this kind of revolutionary concept, emotional hunger. And the key thing he taught is that this kind of hunger, it doesn't live in your stomach. Not at all.
Okay.
He put it so well. He said, emotional hunger sounds like a craving, but it's actually a question, a need asking to be seen.
Wow, okay. A question. That's a big shift.
It is, because it implies we're often getting our signals crossed.
So, like feeling tired or lonely or maybe just totally overwhelmed.
Exactly. All those things. And we reach for food because that's the habit, the easy answer, maybe.
But what we're actually seeking, according to Hollis, might be connection or comfort or maybe just stillness, clarity.
Precisely. And food, in those moments, it becomes what he called emotional scaffolding, like a temporary prop for an unmet emotional need.
Emotional scaffolding. I like that.
Yeah. But what happens when that scaffolding gets taken away? Maybe through awareness or maybe even through certain medications we'll talk about?
Right, then you're kind of left feeling exposed.
Exposed, exactly. And Hollis didn't shame that pattern. That's crucial. He just named it. He reframed emotional hunger not as some kind of weakness, but as wisdom misdirected.
Wisdom misdirected.
Yeah. It's like the wisdom is there, the need is real, it's just getting channeled into food instead of addressing the root cause. He wanted us to face that exposure, not run from it.
So the practice then becomes pausing when you feel that urge.
Yes, but pausing with curiosity, not with judgment, not beating yourself up.
Okay.
It's about asking that really vital question Hollis proposed. What am I really hungry for? Right now, in this moment. And this is where he guides us to try and separate that true physical hunger from what he called signal confusion.
Signal confusion.
Yeah. And to start seeing cravings not as enemies you have to fight, but more like messengers.
Messengers. Okay, how's that?
Messengers carrying information about what you might actually need, so you meet them with insight, not impulse.
Insight, not impulse. That takes practice, I imagine.
Oh, absolutely. He stressed that healing this really requires empathy for yourself, plus awareness of what's going on inside, and crucially asking the question behind the craving. That, he said, that's the real work.
Okay, so speaking of quieting things down to hear those messages, let's bring in semaglutide. Most people know it as Ozempic or Wegovy. It started out for type 2 diabetes, but then, wow, the weight loss effects became really prominent.
Yeah, that discovery really changed the conversation, didn't it? And it brought up a really critical question, especially in the context of Hollis's ideas. What happens when the physical hunger fades because of the medication, but that deeper emotional hunger is still there?
Right. Does the drug fix that too?
Well, Hollis had a really interesting take. He believed semaglutide doesn't solve emotional hunger, not directly. Instead, his insight was that it makes the biological noise quiet enough to finally hear it.
Okay, so it creates space.
Exactly. He put it this way: semaglutide isn't the solution to emotional eating, it's the silence that lets you find one.
The silence that lets you find one. That's powerful.
It really is. And you know, the drug itself works by mimicking GLP-1, a gut hormone, which affects appetite centers in the brain. But Hollis was looking beyond the mechanism.
So he wasn't just seeing it as an appetite suppressant.
No, not just that. He reframed it. He saw it as a pause or a breather, maybe even a reset.
Like hitting the pause button on the constant food chatter.
Precisely. He described it as this unique opportunity it creates, a chance to rebuild identity, behavior, and emotional awareness while the cravings take a step back.
So while the physical urge is lessened, you have this window to work on the underlying stuff.
That was his whole point. He taught that the real work begins when the cravings stop. That's when the truth shows up.
The truth about those deeper hunger.
Exactly. And this led him to view semaglutide not as cheating, which is a word you hear a lot,
Oh yeah, definitely.
but as adaptation. He actually said the real cheat is pretending willpower was enough all along.
Wow. That really flips the script on the whole willpower debate.
It does. It challenges that narrative that if you just tried harder, you wouldn't need help.
Okay, so from finding that silence, sometimes we stumble, right?
Yeah.
Let's talk about failure. Because the common story around weight loss failure is pretty harsh. It means you're weak, undisciplined, just not cut out for it. There's often a lot of shame tied up in that.
So much shame. And this is another area where Dan Hollis offered a really transformative reframing. Incredibly empowering. He said, failure isn't the end, it's a message, a moment of feedback.
A message.
And sometimes, he added, it's the most honest conversation you'll ever have with yourself.
Instead of seeing it as this final judgment, see it as information.
Exactly. He encouraged people to view failure not as proof you're flawed, but as a data point, something objective,
A data point.
something you can look at, learn from, and then use to adjust your approach, rather than letting it completely knock you off course.
That takes the emotional charge out of it a bit.
It really does. And he talked about relapse, too. He said it isn't necessarily a betrayal of your goals. Often it's the brain just asking for the old familiar rhythm. It's seeking comfort in the known.
The old pattern.
Yeah, and ignoring that signal, just trying to power through without understanding it, he warned that can lead to fracture, things falling apart later. And he made a really critical point, especially thinking about medications like semaglutide. He said, most people aren't failing semaglutide. They're failing to prepare for what comes after it.
So the drug might quiet the cravings now, but if you haven't built new coping mechanisms, new habits.
Then when the medication stops, or even if its effect lessens, you're right back where you started, possibly feeling even worse.
So those moments where things break down, they aren't necessarily signs that you're weak.
Right. More often, there are signals that maybe your support system needs strengthening or your strategies need adjusting. Something in the system needs attention, not just blaming the person.
Makes sense.
And that's why Hollis talked about setbacks being potentially sacred.
Sacred. How so?
Sacred if you can approach them with curiosity instead of judgment. Because, as he put it so perfectly, the shame isn't in failing. The shame is in pretending you were supposed to be perfect.
Oof. Yeah. That hits home, that pressure to be perfect.
Totally. It's paralyzing.
So then grace, in this context, isn't just letting yourself off the hook. It's more active.
Very active. Hollis described grace as responding to that stumble by reaching for a better tool instead of reaching for blame.
Choosing a different action instead of spiraling into self-criticism.
Exactly. It's a compassionate, constructive shift. And it leads you to ask what Hollis thought was a truly crucial question. What story am I telling myself about this failure? And is that story helping me become who I want to be?
Checking if your internal narrative is actually serving your growth.
Precisely. It's all about learning how to truly fail forward, using every setback not as an end, but as fuel for the next step.
This feels like it leads to the real core of Hollis's teaching, doesn't it? It's moving way beyond just tracking calories or the science of a drug. It seems to be about listening to that quiet space, that silence we talked about.
Yes.
And the goal shifts. It's not just about the number on the scale anymore. It's about fundamentally building a life where food isn't your only coping tool.
That's it, exactly. And his insight here is really profound. He argued that losing control isn't usually about a lack of willpower. More often, it's about losing connection.
Connection to what?
Connection to your actual hunger cues, yes, but also connection to your sense of purpose. Connection to yourself.
Wow. So the real work is rebuilding those connections.
That's what Hollis believed. That's the ultimate goal, reestablishing that internal wiring.
And tools like semaglutide, they offer that potentially sacred space or window you mentioned.
Exactly, a window where you get a chance to actively design a new system for your life, maybe for the first time, without that constant biological noise drowning everything else out.
But it's not automatic.
Yeah.
The drug creates the space, but you have to build something in it.
Precisely. Hollis was really clear on this. Fast results, like rapid weight loss, don't guarantee lasting change. He'd say the scale doesn't measure self-trust. You build self-trust through new actions, new choices.
Right.
Which is why he hammered home the importance of planning for life after semaglutide. Because if you don't consciously build that life,
The old patterns will just fill the space back in.
they absolutely will. Which connects to another key teaching. Every pound lost, he said, means a habit must be replaced, not just removed.
You can't just create a vacuum. You have to intentionally put something else there.
Yes. Biology, maybe through medication, might give you a head start, a push. But Hollis believed only identity keeps you moving.
Identity,
Hmm.
meaning how you see yourself.
How you see yourself, what you believe you're capable of, what your life is about beyond food and weight. He put it this way. You don't hold on to weight loss with discipline. You hold on to it with alignment.
Alignment,
Yeah.
meaning your actions match that new identity you're building.
Exactly. Intentionally aligning your choices, your thoughts, your environment with the person you are becoming, the life you want to live, that's deeper than just forcing yourself through discipline.
So when we put all this together,
Hmm.
this kind of healing, this transformation, it's not flashy, is it?
Not at all. He described it as quiet and intentional.
Like the slow layering of new choices, new thoughts, and new systems.
Mm-hmm. All carefully constructed during that window of opportunity, that quiet space that a tool like semaglutide might help create.
It brings it all back to the person.
Absolutely. And maybe the most powerful takeaway from Hollis, the ultimate transformation he taught, is that this whole journey, weight loss included, isn't really about becoming someone else. It's about finally having the space to become yourself.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
That's a lot to think about.
Yeah.
We've really covered some ground here. Reframing hunger, not just as physical, but as a question. Understanding medications like semaglutide, not as a magic fix, but as a tool creating silence.
Yeah, and embracing failure completely differently, seeing it as feedback, as data, not as shame.
And then shifting the entire focus from just losing weight to actually building a new identity, a new life system.
Hmm.
It's clear this deep dive went way beyond just, tips for shedding pounds.
They really did. It's more about profound self-discovery, using the journey with weight and food as a path for that. So maybe a final thought for everyone listening. Considering Dan Hollis's ideas about replacing habits, building identity during those moments of quiet clarity, what new system or maybe what new facet of your identity completely separate from food are you curious to design or maybe just explore the next time you find yourself in one of life's quiet moments?